So you've got £10,000 and you want to invest in property. What do you do? My name's Jamie York. I'm a property investor, trader, entrepreneur, and trainer. And in this video, I'm going to show you what I would do if I was starting out again and I had just £10,000 in the bank. Before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any property videos coming up in the future. Okay, so there's probably a few different ways to start out with the £10,000, and I'm going to show you how maybe I would explore this. Now, this isn't planned out. I'm going to go through this as it comes into my head, but so it's more realistic and authentic to how I would approach the situation. So first of all, if I've got £10,000, it immediately eliminates a majority of property investment opportunities. Now, if you've got £10,000, first of all, that's fantastic, and congratulations for being able to save up that amount of money. However, let's be realistic, it's not a lot of money coming into the property investment world. So things like land banking, commercial conversions, commercial investments, maybe even some of the HMO purchases, service accommodation purchases, you probably want to forget about for now. And if you don't know what a lot of those are, don't worry, put those aside and look out for future videos. As I said, hit the subscribe button and they'll come up as they're coming through to you. What we're going to be looking at is the strategies that don't realistically need a lot of money. And I'm going to talk you through probably the top 3 that I would be looking at as it comes into my head. Number 1 is going to be property trading, or some people call these deal packaging. Number 2 is probably something like rent to rent, which I'll explain in a bit of detail. And 3 might be lease options. So I'm not going to deep dive in each of these strategies because I don't think this is the video for it. However, I will be doing separate videos on each of these strategies. So you can look out for those videos or give it a search under my name and I'll make sure to get something like that done for you. So property trading or deal packaging is when you sit in the middle of deals. So you're going out there, you're finding deals, and then you're matching that up with an investor that you've met. Okay, and often you're going to get paid around £5,000 per property is fairly typical. Our average is slightly higher than that. You're going to get some where you make 20, 30, 40 grand, but the average is around £5,000 per trade. Now, I think this is a really important investment venture to go on at the beginning of your journey because it's in my opinion, the quickest, lowest risk, well, near zero risk actually, way of making money through property. But I also think it's important for people that are well-established investors because ultimately you're still going to be out there looking for investment opportunities for yourself as you build up. Why wouldn't you want to know how to trade on property ethically whilst helping out a vendor or somebody selling their property, helping out an investor that wants to make money from property and benefit yourself? So if it's out of your area, if it doesn't quite reach your criteria, it's important to trade that on. But obviously we're focusing at the beginning of the journey. So that's definitely my number 1 choice because it's immediate money. So I'm guessing if you've got 10,000, it's important to you to make money quickly. It's not get rich quick, but it's get rich quicker than any other strategy that I know within property investment. And it's risk-free and it needs virtually no money getting started. And it's virtually no money because you've always got business startup costs, which I'll go through a bit later. Rent to rent is the typical rent to rent layout is when you rent a property, let's say a 4 or 5 bedroom property, and then you are renting out the rooms individually. And then the amount of the margin in the middle is the profit for you to keep. Typically, you will end up making between £400 and £500. There's a lot of people out there that will go, yeah, make £1,000 a property. It's not realistic for the average deal. And is it no money down, as a lot of people say? No, it's not. You always need some money. However, if you're looking for some form of income from property on an ongoing basis, that's quite a good property strategy to get involved in early doors, because again, there's lower risk with the contracts if it's done properly. You don't own the property, which comes with its pros and cons, but you control it instead. So it's a great way of doing that. The downside is, unless you're getting a management in place, some sort of lettings manager, which most people don't with rent to rents because there's not enough margin in it, you then are becoming a property manager. So you need to look after, you become some form of landlord, if you like, by managing the property. The other downside is you're always going to need to do some bits. I'd probably factor in around £5,000 for a rent to rent to get it kitted out. You've got your voids at the beginning and the effort going in. But once it's up and running and it pays you back in the first year, you're then making profit on an ongoing basis. So it's really important to get a longer term. 3 to 5 years is fairly typical for a rent to rent. Again, I'm not going to deep dive more into that. I can do that in a separate video. Thirdly, and this is probably the order of that, what I would go in, is lease options. Lease options, put simply, is you control a property, you don't buy it. And by writing a lease option agreement, you have the right, but not the obligation to purchase the property. So let's say you get a 5-year lease option. What often happens is you will cover the mortgage payment. Let's say on an 80 grand property, it might be 150 quid that you're paying each month. You will pay that mortgage. You have the right to let the property out, and then the money you're making between the rental and the mortgage payment you put in your pocket. And then you also have the right to purchase that property at any point within that lease term. So it might be 5 years, but you don't have to buy it at the end. Again, the reason I like it is it's a relatively cheap way of getting into property, getting experience as a buy-to-let landlord, which is really great, and it's relatively low risk, okay, which is fantastic. The downsides are it's still controlling a property. You still need to look after the maintenance of the property, and you still need to put some money in getting started. So my preference would be to focus on deal packaging or property trading. Okay, so as I said, we're going to focus on the top one. So let's get rid of that. Let's not even make it a part of what we're going to be looking at. So how would I spend the £10,000? Now, this is where it really breaks down, okay, and where it gets important. So number one, education, always education. If you don't understand what you're doing, you know, people say the cost of education is expensive. Try the cost of ignorance, okay? Ignorance is not bliss. It's going to cost you a shed ton of money. So number one is education. So what order would I go in with that? So I wouldn't just throw myself at paid education. I run my own paid education around deal packaging and deal trading. So I have a vested interest to say, sign up to a course straight away, but I don't actually want that, and I don't think it's smart. So number one, I'd check out YouTube. I'd find people on Facebook that you like. I'd follow their content. I'd follow their lives. Do you engage with them? Do you like them? Is the personality right for you? And I'd start immersing myself into that world. I'd add myself to Facebook groups within that. And I'd start talking to people that are actively doing this on a daily basis. Then I'd start doing some paid for stuff. So I'd probably buy some books. I'd go to some webinars. I'd go to some discovery days. And ultimately, these are all going to be ways to start thinking about what you want to do and get some more knowledge. So books are going to cost you 20 quid. Webinars are free. There's often going to be a sale on the webinar, which is absolutely fine. But just if you don't want to sign up, don't sign up and take the value from the webinar. And of course, the discovery days where, again, most of them are free to 150 quid, something like that, for you to start immersing yourself in that. Once I've then gone there, I'm probably going to go and find myself a paid for educator. Now, there are some people out there that will say you can find it all in books or you can find it on YouTube. I've looked at them, and personally, I disagree. I think it's great putting a load of free content out there, but ultimately not many people are going to be willing to share their best stuff without getting some form of remuneration for it, and I think that's okay too. But this is going to cost you, let's say, up to £3,000 of your £10,000 budget. Okay? You're then going to, let me just bring this up. So we've got education sorted. Number 2 is going to be getting your company set up along with compliance. Okay, and this is why I say absolutely nothing is free, because you need to set up a limited company or an LLP or as a sole trader. You need to look into that, obviously get educated around this. You need your compliance together. You're probably going to be looking at £750 to £1,000. Okay, so right now we've got education for 3K. You've got 1K spent on setup and compliance. So then you've got £6,000 to spend. And what would I spend that money on? Right now, I would be spending the money on marketing. Okay, and I'm not saying spend this all at once, but ultimately every single business is about marketing and selling. Okay, now if you've got the right education, they're going to educate you around the best marketing techniques to get direct to vendor off-market deals. Okay, so marketing is going to be really huge for this, and they're going to teach you how to actually sell, how to convert those leads into money, build an investor database, etc. So again, I'd probably split this down. So I'd probably say, let's split this over a 6-month basis. Okay, now I'm assuming you want to utilize all £10,000 here, by the way. So I'm going to go with £4,000 split over a 6-month basis. And that's probably going to be a really good spend. So you've got marketing for £4,000. And then the final thing that I'd look at is networking. You may have heard this before, that your net worth is your network, or your network is your net worth. Who you surround yourself with, who you commit to, who you communicate to, who you add value to, is going to ultimately put more money in your pocket. And you need to be putting yourself out there, telling everyone what you do. There's something called the 3-foot rule. Tell everyone within 3 foot what you do and start attracting what you're putting out in the world. And you definitely want some budget for networking meetings, your train, coffees, maybe some drinks, maybe some dinners. And I think over the 6-month basis, if you allocate £2,000, that's going to be a pretty decent allocation of funds. So again, if we just quickly break that down, we've got 4 key elements to this. So you're going to have number 1, education, which is going to be £3,000. Number 2, your business and your compliance setup. Number 3, your marketing budget to split over that. And number 4, your networking. So ultimately, the strategy that I would advise going towards is deal packaging or property trading. Same things, one's a bit more eloquent than the other, but property trading within that. And then you've got your £10,000 budget. Now, I know a lot of people would be watching that was like, maybe you didn't expect that. You know, education, fairly obvious. Setup, most people don't talk about. Marketing, it's the number 1 thing and most people aren't talking about it. And of course, networking is key, because who you know is going to represent your bank flow. And they are the 4 key elements. There's the strategy that I would go out, and that's how I'd start implementing my 10K today. So if you want to see more videos about lease options, rent to rents, deal packaging, deep diving around everything property, make sure to smash the subscribe button now, and I'll see you in the next video.